Good morning. This is Walter Coffey, and I'm President and CEO of Leading Age Georgia, our institute, the Georgia Institute on Aging, and our consumer center, the Center for Positive Aging. I want to thank everybody for participating today, and just to let you know also that we will be sharing this recorded webinar on our online member resource tool, which is called SharePoint. And we've been very intentional about building a really strong library of webinars that can be accessed by our members at any time they want to, 24/7. So we're very excited about the work of CCRCs in Georgia. As you know, we have a small number of CCRCs that are growing in our state, and Leading Age has done a lot of significant work in the development of updating the laws in our state, as well as working with the Department of Insurance on rules and regulations and different models. This year, we were able to pass a piece of legislation to allow for the CCRC at home, some people call it CCRC without walls model, to be utilized in our state. And this will allow CCRC providers to expand their services. So we want to learn a little bit more about how this works. And I want to thank Tom Rockenbach and Terry Barcroft for co-chairing our Public Policy Committee to move forward the work of not only our policy work in general in our state, but also to advance opportunities for CCRCs in Georgia. So Carlisle Place is probably the furthest member that's ahead in looking at rolling out this model, and that's where Tom Rockenbach is the executive director, and he's going to share a little bit about their process and about what they're learning throughout their process. And we have a face-to-face meeting that he will host for us on Thursday, November 19th at Carlisle Place down in Macon. So just to kind of get us some background and to understand what's going on, I wanted to introduce our guest speaker today, Sarah Spellman, who is a principal and at Clifton Larson Allen in their healthcare division, and she's been working with Carlisle Place. And so Sarah, thank you so much for preparing this webinar for us and for giving us your time today. And we're just going to turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. I'm happy to be here. Just a little bit of my background. I started one of the first continuing care at home programs in the country more than 15 years ago, and have worked with many of the operators of this unique program around the country. So, and I also have operated CCRC, so I like to think that I bring that combination of experience to the engagements related to this program. Just to give you a little bit of background, the whole idea of continuing care at home was really to take what we do best as CCRCs, offering that continuum of services that people need as they age, out to those people who say, I'm never going to move out of my home. Yet, I want the same security that a retirement community offers. I use this illustration just so that you can understand it's a very broad in scope, all-encompassing program, very similar to what we have historically provided as CCRCs, with the only difference really is that care management piece, where on our campuses we typically would say, well, we don't do care management because we see our residents every day, so we know what's going on with them. But with this continuing care at home model, care management is really at the heart of the service delivery and actually the operating results. It's that intentional care management program that stays in touch with the members, provides the necessary services, and anecdotally, from information that we've received from operating programs, it's that care management piece that is, the result is lower utilization of expensive services. So as Walter said, it's a CCRC without walls. What we're talking about is a life care model, type A, type B. Entry fee, monthly fees with the promise of future services. It really started as the type A, larger entrance fee and monthly fees, and a guarantee of really 100% of the services that a person might need as they age. It has morphed over the years, and there are varieties of pricing plans, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit, but you'll see co-pays, you'll see flexible service packages, waiting periods, lifetime limits. So as long as you involve an actuary in the pricing, you can offer any kind of pricing plan that you want, that you believe consumers will find value in. The continuing care at home offers a package of services, as I mentioned earlier, and they're really designed to provide a continuum of people, and that package will include assisted living and nursing home, as well as home-based services. While we see less utilization of assisted living and nursing home, it's still important that that be part of the package, because we know that sometimes a person's health can change so dramatically that staying at home is no longer safe. The programs around the country vary in size and in age, from 18 to 2,300 members. I mean, there's a dramatic, and the larger programs are the older programs. They've had more time to reach and enlist membership. The variation on those sizes also depends on the size of your market. You need to have a certain density of age and an appropriate income household for this program to work, because it's not going to appeal to everyone. Portability, if you allow people to take their benefit out of your area into other geographic areas, that's very important for your sales process. Offering a variety of different pricing options, your reputation in the marketplace, offering an open panel. What I mean by that is that a person that joins can go to other assisted living and nursing homes closer to their home, rather than just limiting it to your assisted living and nursing home. And then, the state regulations, what the state allows you to do, also will have an impact on the size of the program that you might have. This is just a chart that shows the history of these programs, how many are in existence. We have about 28 right now operating around the country, mostly east of the Mississippi. And then we are anticipating substantial growth again in 2016. This is just a map that shows where those programs are. So one of the questions that I get a lot about continuing care at home is, why now? And just very quickly, when we had the economic downturn in 2008, CCRCs really started looking at new sources of revenue that weren't going to involve bricks and mortar, because the financing for bricks and mortar wasn't really available. We've seen the push, and finally CCRCs are ready to also provide services off of their campuses. But I think really the influence of just something new, it just takes a while for anything new to gain traction. And then the other stumbling block, and you all made it through that process fairly quickly, are the legislative efforts that it has taken in every state to actually, provide the regulations that would allow for continuing care at home. So we've seen increases in the number of programs. I am getting inquiries from for-profit organizations about the model. We've had a conference for continuing care at home. We're now doing networking groups at Leading Age. We're starting a benchmarking program, doing customer satisfaction across all of the different operators. So we've really made some great strides with this program in the last couple of years. And then interestingly enough, the last Ziegler 100 survey found that 30% of the respondent organizations who were not currently offering continuing care at home were considering developing a program. So that was a staggering bit of data. This slide shows what is a typical package of services. And you can see that there's a wellness component. There is, there are services that are provided to the member who joins. They need to be healthy and not in need of services because of that life care promise. But there are services that are provided to them in the beginning, and then as their health changes, there are home-based services such as homemaker and personal care services, nursing, live-in services, meals, transportation, and then that assisted living and nursing home component really rounds out the services. The referrals for home maintenance, housekeeping, lawn care, those are services that we know that people need as they age, but they are not going to be paid for typically by a continuing care at home program. Yet you want to be the one-stop shop, so referrals to vetted vendors for those types of services are often provided. The contracts for continuing care at home are oftentimes fairly similar to the contracts that you would have for your campus residents. Obviously there would have to be some language changes in relation to the service package. The pricing for the program is always based on a daily cap. So you can't say we'll provide you with anything. You can't price that. So typically there is a daily cap that you would say we will provide a package of services that you need up to this dollar amount. And oftentimes that dollar amount is the equivalent of what the nursing home costs. But that can vary, and some of that depends on the amount of risk that your organization might want to take. Across the board, I've seen average entrance fees ranging from $3,500 to $75,000. That range usually is based on the age of the person that's joining. The older a person is, the more their entrance fee. The younger a person is, the less their entrance fee. And it also varies based on the type of pricing plan that you have, what you are including. And then you'll see average monthly fees ranging from $200 to $500 a month. Some programs are offering opportunities to integrate long-term care insurance policies. And then, again, this is and on this slide is a sample of a variety of different pricing plans that I've seen. The staffing for continuing care at home is a pretty simple model. Typically, these programs, when they start, will have an executive director, an administrative assistant, a salesperson, and a care coordinator. And then the service providers are typically subcontracted. I mentioned earlier that members join when they are healthy and not in need of services. And you're going to want to have a the admissions process is very important for this program. You're not going to be providing services early on. So subcontracting for services rather than developing a new home care agency as an example for this program is a better way to go. until you start to provide a lot of service, until your membership ages and you provide a lot more services down the road. Then you might want to decide, well, we're going to develop this service ourselves so that we can manage the quality. The reason that I want to emphasize the staffing model typically is because when folks are considering joining continuing care at home, they're not looking at bricks and mortar. So there's not much that is tangible about this program. But what is tangible is the staffing complement. And what we have found is that it is really important from a consumer perspective that you have staff. So basically what it says to the consumer is the sponsoring organization believes in this program enough to staff up. And then the other piece of it is that they are buying the care coordination. And so having that care coordinator, even though that person won't be real busy for a while, is typically really important to the care coordinators. The estimated development costs are pretty simple. You know, you've got market research, you've got actuarial work that you need to do. You may have some legal work. We estimate that at about $100,000. Sometimes it doesn't, need to be that much. And then the operating investment we estimate at about $250,000 to $300,000. These programs cash flow themselves very early on because of the size of the entrance fees. So our experience has been that you can cash flow yourself easily in the first year and pay back any, operating loan that you may have provided the program to get started. Current GAAP rules for life care require the amortization of entrance fees, so you're not going to see a positive bottom line until year 3 or 4. And we're trying to figure out what impact the new revenue recognition rules that have been delayed, by the way, for at least another year, what those rules are going to have on these programs. This is an example of Longwood at Home, which is a program sponsored by Presbyterian Senior Care. And this just gives you an idea of the pace of membership growth and the annual operating income and the total assets that this program has, their operating experience. So what I thought I might do now very quickly is just to talk about what the questions that I typically get when I'm out there from CCRC sponsors. And the first one is, will I have enough assisted living and skilled nursing beds to support a program like this? And I think what's most important is the fact that the member of continuing care at home has traditionally been very different than the person that moves onto the campus. At-home program age at admission is younger than the age of move-in to CCRCs. We see that there are more couples that are members of at-home programs than move onto campuses. And the result of all of that and the care management is that we are finding that there is way less movement into assisted living and skilled nursing from continuing care at home members than residents on campuses. This is actuarial data provided by CCRC actuaries in Baltimore. It doesn't necessarily translate that you're not spending dollars to support the continuing care at home members. You're doing that, but you're doing it with home-based services rather than those campus-based services. And just as an aside, what I'm also seeing a lot of the new programs do is actually allow for some of the membership fee for continuing care at home to convey to the CCRC if there is an interest of the continuing care at home member to move to the CCRC in independent living. In other words, have they changed their mind and said, I don't want to stay at home any longer, I want to move to the campus. So we're seeing some ability and flexibility in relation to that movement. Will continuing care at home compete with my CCRC? And I'm not going to go through the detail on these slides, but I'm just going to give you the cliff notes here. We've done some actual surveying. We definitely have heard anecdotally from other operators. And the bottom line is that we're not seeing that these programs compete with CCRCs. What we are seeing is that there are a few people that would have moved to campus but really didn't want to and will join the continuing care at home program. But there's equal numbers of those that join the continuing care at home program and say, but I really changed my mind. I've either lost my spouse or had a health change, and I want to move to independent living. I don't want to manage my home any longer. So we really see that continuing care at home extends the reach of the CCRC. It's not a marketing tool for the CCRC to fill independent living, but it doesn't detract from independent living. I'm going to go through these very quickly. I hear a lot of questions relating to risk. It must be riskier to offer life care for people living at home than on my campus. The actuaries actually took a look at this and found that the risk is the same. It's just different. The cost is front-loaded for continuing care at home because of the care management piece rather than backloaded, which is what we see on our campuses, on CCRC campuses. Another question, will the sponsoring CCRC benefit financially? And with life care, we see margins, but the margins are usually related to it's like a risk cushion that the actuaries provide in the pricing. So most of these programs will take any excess cash at the end of an operating year and put it in the bank for future services. Yet there are other ways for CCRCs to benefit financially from these programs. You can spread administrative costs. You can charge the program. You can allocate or charge the program for executive management, for human resources, financial management, billing, et cetera, all the back office services. And the volume is not such that I've seen anybody add staff in the back office because they've added continuing care at home. You're going to see a small increase, as I said earlier, in occupancy of assisted living and nursing homes. So if you accept direct admit, the continuing care at home program would pay the prevailing rate for your assisted living and nursing home if they had a member in those levels of care. You might see, if you have Medicare A short-term rehab beds, you typically would see an increase in utilization. There's an affinity to your organization from these members that are out in the community. You could charge rental payments if the program uses space, if they use amenities. As I mentioned earlier, you'll see that small number of increase of move-ins to independent living. If you have home and community-based services, you'll have increased use of those services. And then what I'm encouraging sponsoring organizations to think about in relation to this program is that this is really an opportunity for you to get into the care management / navigation space, and to do so in a way that is less costly than if you just developed care management, because the care management piece is going to be paid for by these members that are joining the program. The financial benefits, this is a sample program. These are real dollars. So while you're not taking the margin off of the top of this program, this is how one sponsoring organization benefited from having a continuing care at home program. This is a total for the first 5 years, and it's important to remember that you're only accepting healthy, independent folks. So the first 5 years, they're not using a lot of services, yet this organization benefited from, $273,000 in temporary assisted living revenue, $375,000 in temporary nursing home revenue, $459,000 in shared services fees. So those fees for back office and other services provided by the sponsor. Occupational therapy revenue, and then they had an additional Medicare Part A admissions, to the tune of $250,000. So this CCRC in revenue alone, it's not net, because we figured that this was incremental. Those were empty beds that weren't being filled for this sponsoring organization. But this organization benefited to the tune of about $1.4 million in the first 5 years. So, Tom, do you want to explain your journey?
Yes. This is Tom Rockenbach, Executive Director at Carlisle Place, and actually my journey with continuing care at home began back in the early 90s when I had the opportunity to be at a presentation that Don Moon did with Folkways, and kind of learned about that back then. I was with Presbyterian Senior Care at Longwood at Oakmont when we were beginning to entertain going into the life care at home, and then in 2001 moved to Georgia here, so did not see that all the way through. But it's always been something that I'm a firm believer in, and again, as Sarah noted, when the economy turned down, and just looking at the future of home and community-based services and the need for CCRCs that are campus-based to have additional financial outriggers, as I like to call it, we really began in earnest, I would say, about 2011. We had conversations with our board of directors and explained the concept and achieved their interest in buy-in. We began investigating a couple of different consulting firms. We do use Clifton Larson Allen. I will say that we did have in-depth conversations with Cadbury. That's another group that does this. We like the financial pricing structure and consulting model of Clifton Larson Allen, but there are those two organizations that really can help you through this process. And there's also two CCRCs you saw in the slides that CCRC actuaries were quoted in some of the statistics and such in that. We have used AV PAL for our campus setting actuary for years and decided for congruency purposes, we would use AV PAL. So he has done our actuarial forecasting and all the pricing for what we're going to do. As Walter said earlier, it did require change in the Georgia legislation. We've had numerous conversations with the Department of Insurance, and they felt that it needed to be a statutory change in order to get this program to be comfortably enacted in the state of Georgia. In 2013, we took that process through, we began it, and it actually was a bill in 2014. We attached to that bill the opportunity to do an equity model, CCRC as well. We saw that the at-home program was going to create some challenges, so in 2014 we pulled that off of the legislation, and they did pass legislation to do the equity model. I think it's important to note that because that was another key public policy issue that was accomplished in 2014. And then this year, we were able to get the Life Care at Home legislation passed in the state of Georgia. So with that all being done, all through this time period, even though the legislation had not been passed, we continued with market studies and working with our consultants and actuaries to develop the program further. We are going to use a Type A model. Our board has determined that we want to do this as a department of the Carlisle Place Corporation. We are not separately incorporating the Life Care at Home model. Many organizations do that as a separate corporation, so those are discussions you need to have with your board as well and weigh out the benefits and pros and cons of that. So we're going to do it as a department. We think that will provide a greater opportunity to share overhead and resources. The target market that we're looking at, because we're part of a hospital system, the hospital system owns a Medicare certified home health agency, which will be a significant partner in this. As Sarah pointed out, it's feasible to subcontract with different partners, especially in the beginning. A couple years ago, we began pursuing licensure to do a sitter service. We call it enhanced support services, that we utilize CNAs to work with our residents here on the campus. It's still very much in its infancy. There is a potential that we could utilize those resources out in the community at large, but presently that is not large enough to sustain going outside of the campus setting. So we'll partner with those types of services as they become necessary as well. So our target is, like I say, that 14 county area surrounding Bibb. It is somewhat rural. There are pockets of opportunity, and our target in the forecast is somewhere between 150 and at some future date 200 members that we're really kind of seeking to reach out as our balance when we get there. We did conduct 6 focus groups in our area to determine, once we kind of had some initial ideas on where we were going with contract types and some initial pricing, just to test the idea. Those were held earlier in the summer of this year, and they supported the continual pursuing of this program. So where we are presently is we do have a contract drafted, we have pricing, and I would say we're going to use, you saw Sarah's slide that noted several pricing options and methodologies. We are going to offer some different copay models. We did cap what is available. Where you saw the entrance fee and monthly fees being very low, that would be for a home type service only and would not extend into the skilled and assisted living areas. We do have that priced, and we're kind of finalizing how we're going to We have been very fortunate when I attend these national conferences and listen to the challenges that our colleagues have in initiating this program. One of the big barriers they have is getting the campus residents to embrace the idea of the, quote, outsiders. We've been very fortunate because we initiated conversations with our residents and our resident advisory council early on about this and obtained their not only interest but buy-in. They see this as a financial benefit to the community in sustaining their future success as well. So we have not had the challenge with our residents being opposed to this. And I think that may be something, if I were to offer a takeaway, is to really, as you begin to embrace this, get the residents on board early and talk about it often so they understand it. I appreciate the fact Sarah kind of delved into the will there be room on the campus in skilled and assisted living. And again, our residents have a very deep concern about what's going to happen if they need a nursing home bed and a life care at home member needs a nursing home bed at the same time. But we've done some analytics on our direct admissions through assisted living, and I really feel that in the future where we would take a direct admission into assisted living and they pursue the continuum, we would just not market to the community at large, and those beds would become direct admits from the Life Care at Home program. And when you look at that and the statistics that were shared related to the percentage of members that become permanent, it fits into the model that we have. So we have a 40-bed skilled facility, and we have 55 assisted or personal care, soon to be assisted living licensed accommodations. So we feel pretty good about this, and our target was to have our first contract signed by September 30th, and it's September 25th. There may be an opportunity. We're not 100% sure, but I will say, too, we've had some follow-up conversations with the folks at the Department of Insurance, and they have yet to finalize and bless our contract, but I don't really see any issues there. I think the state's on board pretty well with us at this point. So at this point, I would just say if there's some general questions for both of us, be happy to answer them.
So, Tom, this is Mark Lowell at St. George Village, and I guess I would just say is once these people become members of your community, I guess I would look at it that way, that they also would be eligible to avail themselves of your community services, regardless of which service it is, including nursing home services. Is that how you would look at it?
Yes, we do look at it that way. It was interesting in the focus groups, and I guess it was interesting but not necessarily a surprise that people, we're in Macon, people in Perry, which to me is not far away, but I can understand their concern, felt I may not be interested in coming to Macon for nursing home care. And so we have definitely from the very beginning said we would be not only needing to, but seeking partners that would be vetted out, and they would be preferred partners, if you will, that we would have a relationship with. We'd want them, again, the reputation of our name is kind of going behind this when people do need nursing care, so we do want to vet them in a format. But if they would like to take their benefit into a facility that is of their choosing, they can do that as well. So the quick answer is, yeah, they will, and there is the opportunity to have other facilities join us.
And then just if I could add that their programs handle this differently, literally across the board. There are some that say you, as a member, can avail yourself of all of the amenities, dining, fitness, whatever is happening on the campus, you're now a member of the family. And others have said, no, access to the campus is not part of this program. So there's a wide variety.
And just to follow up, on our campus, we would invite people. There'd be certain, if they want to do meals, we're not going to include meals necessarily in the plan, but they can certainly come here and we would give them a discount opportunity.
Tom, a question I have would be if when you engage the actuarial study to support this, is part of that actuarial study a review of the demographics of your targeted market area, or is that demographic study done by a separate company?
Well, we've worked with Clifton Larson Allen and AV together. So the data that we've received from the market study and that feedback and information has also been shared with AV PAL. So it is kind of a partnership between both. So he understands the demographic we're looking at and the population density that could be forecast out. And then he's pricing that with that in mind, and also with the financial information that we give him related to our costs and what we want to do with the program.
Thank you.
I would say, just add one other thing, because we're doing it as a department, we will keep the statistics separate for the at-home folks and the campus dwellers, but really the risk pool is a combined risk pool. So if we launch into this and ultimately only get 20 members and it stays stagnant at 20 members, I'm not concerned about having to tell those people we're not going to cover them anymore, because the way we're doing the actuarial look is to include them in the risk pool in total, but also to look at them as a separate cohort, if that makes sense.
So Tom, is your the way that you're going to set this up business-wise with your staffing is that's all going to be right within Carlisle Place, or are you using a separate office area?
For now, we're going to start it with office space within Carlisle.
Okay.
We're not going to go out and lease a storefront.
Okay.
Because the initial marketing will really take place off the campus to a large degree at venues around the market area. Country clubs, hotels, those kind of things is where we're really anticipating having the marketing meetings.
So
and in people's homes, correct?
Yes, of course, yes.
So the marketing, the salespeople that you, or the sales counselor that you hire for this program, that individual is going to report to whoever is the top leader for the at-home program, not reporting over to your internal marketing director. Is that right?
Yes. Everyone we've talked to in this, and Sarah, jump in on this, you can't have your campus marketing people marketing this program. There's just, for whatever reason, there's just an overlay that does not work there. And Sarah, you may want to delve more deeply into that.
That's been our experience, that you really need a dedicated salesperson. And we have found in most instances it works best if that person reports into whoever is managing the program. There have been a couple times where they've reported into the campus marketing office, and I've only seen that work once. So that would not be what we would recommend.
I would just add, Mark, that in the startup process, our current marketing people are working with our PR. We contract out with some PR groups, and they're designing and have been designing the collateral and such. So, because right now there isn't a dedicated person in place today.
Right.
So we've initiated all that process, and we've had our leadership team discuss the amenities and ideas for that collateral as well. So that it's been a collaborative process kind of in the initial piece, and then once it launches, there'll be an individual assigned specifically to the marketing.
Okay, thank you,
Tom, this is Jeff. On the question of your contracts, when it comes to the benefit or not of assisted living and or skilled nursing, does that, am I correct, or do I understand correctly that your at-home contracts would exclude any benefit to skilled nursing or assisted living accommodations, or clear that up for me, if you will.
Just the opposite. They include assisted living and skilled.
Okay.
It's a type A contract.
Okay.
So they get unlimited days, unlimited benefit, just like a campus dweller in a type A contract.
Okay. And that's for an unlimited period of time.
Yes, but remember, it is capped, and we've set the cap so that it is what our average daily rate is.
All right. Oh, that's right. Yeah,
so
that's right. Okay.
Someone went to a facility up the road, we would only pay up to what our potential rate, what our rate is in our nursing facility to them. So,
okay, got you.
And if it went above it, then that's on the resident. And there's also going to be a co-pay opportunity with that.
Got you. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Any other questions?
Well, we'll be a little further into this in November, so we look forward to hosting a luncheon and discussion and hearing where we are as we get a couple more months under our belt in our journey here.
Right. Well, this has been really, Sarah, thank you so much for putting this together. I picked up a few tidbits that I hadn't even thought about before, and it was a beautiful overview, so thank you. And we will be in touch with everybody. Look forward to seeing everybody on November 19th, probably from about 10 a.m. to 2 at Carlisle Place in Macon. And just continue to watch our monthly e-newsletter for everything that's going on, as well as our website, because we have lots of opportunities in the association. So thanks to everybody for listening in, and it'll be recorded. We'll put some information in the October newsletter about the webinar in case you want to access it with your management teams or some of your board members or whatever. So again, Sarah and Tom, thank you so much, and we'll talk to everybody later.
Thank you.
Thank you.